Vice President at the New York City Economic Development Corporation, and thank you very much for having us here. Over the past year or so, I've been working with, Alex says it, I've been working with the RIOC about our landing here, which is something we've been planning for several years before we started this latest round where we actually had this funded plan and are intending to get an operator. So what I'd like to do is update a little bit about what we are planning to take to the board on the 20th and talk a little bit about where we are in the overall implementation of the project, and then specific to Roosevelt Island, how we are going to site the landing, what we are designing now, and what it's going to look like, and how it's going to be accessed, some of the upland improvements around it, and then talk a little bit about the operations that we're finalizing agreement on with Roosevelt Island around how the ferry service will work, and then maintenance obligations on an ongoing basis. I'm joined by Paul Boongart, who's heading up the design and construction of the citywide ferry service, as well as Alex Brady, who's one of our planners, and has been particularly focused on the island. Excuse me for standing. So I'll guide. Service routes. Today we have the East River Ferry, which is shown in blue, which connects from East 34th Street along southwestern Queens and northern Brooklyn, and then connects at Pier 11. We are adding 3 new stops in 2017, which are the Rockaway stops, from Rockaway to stopping at the Brooklyn Army Terminal in Sunset Park into Pier 11. The South Brooklyn route, which is shown here in reddish brown, depending on your color blindness, Pier 11, Brooklyn Bridge Park, Pier 1, Pier 6, Red Hook, Brooklyn Army Terminal, and Bay Ridge. And the third route is Astoria, the Astoria route, which is starting in Astoria, Roosevelt Island, Long Island City, and then East 34th Street. And then those are the 3 that we're launching next summer, in summer 17, and then 2 additional routes in 18, the Lower East Side route, which you can see here, in purple, East 34th Street, Stuyvesant Cove, Grand Street, and Pier 11, and then the Soundview route, which is in green, going from Soundview, East 90th, East 62nd, and then down to Pier 11. This is a 7-day-a-week, year-round service. It's pegged to be the same cost as a subway fare, $275, and that we are planning to have our cost for a single ride mirror what the MTA is charging. We'll probably launch at $275, even if the MTA is changing that year, just because we've been saying it as much as we have. We are offering some discounts for, I believe, handicapped as well as senior citizen and children. And children. And then we're still working out some of the details, but we're likely to have some discounted rate for a monthly pass or something like that. We're projecting that we're going to have about 4.5 million rides per year in the entire service once we launch, and that's inclusive of East River Ferry, which has a little over 1.5 million, the 17 routes and the 2018 routes. And then we'll have a total of 21 landings, ADA accessible, and we're planning to home port in the Brooklyn Navy Yard, which is great because today a lot of the ferry operations are home ported out of New Jersey, so we'll be bringing that revenue and those jobs back into New York City, which is great, and something that helps economic development, which is what we're particularly interested in. Here's some more details on the Astoria route, some of the travel times. I guess for Roosevelt Islanders, 7 minutes to get across to Long Island City. That's a time that's inclusive of the docking and maneuvering to get up to the docks. Another 6 minutes from there to get to East 34th Street. We're a few minutes late because it took us an hour and a half to get from Lower Manhattan. Kind of hard to comprehend that. The ferry would be a lot better at 16 plus 6 plus 7. So one day, hopefully, we'll be back here soon via boat.
And Seth, does it continue then to Lower Manhattan?
Oh yes, I'm sorry. Once it goes from 34th Street, it goes to Pier 11.
You don't have to change to another ferry.
You do not have to change. If you work in Lower Manhattan and this is the fastest way, so you work on Wall Street or right near there, you can get right off at Pier 11. Yeah.
So you don't have to switch boats at 34th Street.
Correct. You can just stay on your boat. And there may be people who get on to get just down there, and there may be people who switch from another line that just stops at 34th Street to get down to 11.
How frequent do you envision the service to be beginning?
It changes from peak hours to off-peak times, and during the peak times, it's, I think, 25 to 30 minutes, and during off-peak or weekend times, it's as much as an hour.
Okay.
Is that about right?
Yeah, it varies, on the off-peak times, it varies by season, so in the dead of winter on a weekend, it's less frequent than in a summer weekend, but the peak kind of commuting hours will be consistent all year round at that kind of 30 minute range.
So specific to Roosevelt Island, this is where we sited the landing with a lot of input from the operating corporation here. This is the oil dock, that's the Queensboro Bridge anchorage. We tried to pick a really central location where we thought would be at the confluence of several other transportations and central to the island. Because of the subway tunnels that are underneath here, we couldn't locate right on the oil dock, so we are just to the north of it. And we have strove to keep as much as possible, both here on Roosevelt Island and throughout the city, to keep all the amenities and services connected to the landing actually on the barge. So what you see here is a gangway that connects to the bulkhead and then out onto the barge, which is the landing. And there are docking points at the end for the bow of the boats, and then a side loader docking capacity there. We have, so we'll have things like ticketing, waiting areas, we'll have weather protection, all on the landing so you don't have people queuing and gathering on, potentially blocking the esplanade or taking up open space. And a lot of our other landings are also adjacent to parks and across the city, so we're trying to really get the passengers out of those parks and onto the landings where we think that will minimize any disruption. Trying to keep a low profile in our design so we're not blocking people's views. And, you know, again, meeting ADA comfort, ADA compliance. And an interesting note is that it is usable by multiple ferry operators, provided that they have been issued a landing license. So if there's another private operator or a commercial boat that has a gets a landing license, they can come here and do tourist excursions or other commuter services if there was some special service that people wanted to have run through here and we wanted to offer.
Or emergencies.
And they don't even need the landing license, right?
Right.
This is a easy place for emergency boats to dock or for whatever reason, right? Land design, this is just another rendering. Again, you can see the gangway. Again, pardon me. You can see the gangway. These are spud piles that are driven into the ground or kind of screwed and rock socketed into the ground, depending on what exactly we find under there. You can see the two boats docked there, the barge behind it. And then looking south from the esplanade, another view of the gangway, those spuds, the bridge, boats. And then continuing on, we are really excited about our operator. We selected Hornblower in the spring of this year. They, part of their proposal that we found really exciting was they were going to deliver a whole new fleet of boats for us, and that offers a lot of advantages in terms of the modern technology. They're going to be doing Tier 3 engines, which are kind of the highest level of both performance and environmental sustainability in terms of the lowest fuel consumption for this class of boat. They're going to have these catamaran-style design hulls, which is great for wake. A lot of concern around erosion as you look at boats in the harbor, as well as fuel efficiency with that design. They're designed to hold 149 people, passengers, bicycle, wheelchair, and stroller areas for storage. You have to lock some of them down or fold some of them up. And you know, we're really excited. We think these are going to be a great addition to the harbor and really transform the way people use the waterfront. So that's really exciting. We can talk a little bit about the construction of those boats in just a second. For Roosevelt Island, this was when we picked the site that we are now proposing just north of the oil dock. One of the considerations was, what does it look like as you're approaching it, making sure that it's a kind of logical approach and path to get there. So this was the proposal from Roosevelt Island Operating Corporation, and how to get to the landing, which is here, and some of the landscaping and pedestrian circulation details. We've modified that into this, our proposal back. Some details reconciling where a fence and a hedge actually run. These are pretty minor. We're just tweaking the alignment of the path here to take you directly onto the gangway, very much in keeping with what RIOC proposed to us. We think what they proposed made a lot of sense, preserving some of these existing trees and adding a few other ones around the seating area in the center, and then some aesthetic details that will work out around some of the existing structures in the area that have to stay. So we think this will be really positive, and we think it's really positive feedback that we got, and our plan is to implement this in addition to the landing by the summer of 17, so that we can start service. In addition, we have a memorandum of understanding, or MOU, which sets out a variety of terms between the city and the corporation. We are going to share our designs with the island and get their comment back on it. We are responsible for the construction of the landing and any other improvements as we're building them. And in the event that we have to cancel service and leave, we will make sure that we don't leave a gaping hole in the bulkhead or anything like that as we pull off, gangways out, but we'll restore it into the condition which we found it. Presumably any new trees we plant and all the other improvements can stay. I don't think we'll quibble about that. We are going to be responsible for maintaining the service. We're not asking for the island to do anything different around that. We're paying for the service and we'll continue it. We're going to be issuing those landing slot licenses I mentioned earlier on behalf of RIOC. We're in their consultation, and we're going to be responsible for the security on the landing. We're going to maintain the landing, the actual gangway and barge float, and those piles. RIOC's responsible for the maintenance of those upland areas, which is why it's so important to do those designs in coordination, collaboration together, and as well as clearing it in the event of like a snowstorm or something like that, making sure that it's accessible. So this is all built into the MOU, as well as some fees for everyone's time and things like those drawings you saw, or legal services and the like. So that's our memorandum of understanding. On the citywide ferry status of where we are, we've been meeting with as many people as want to meet with us. We have our open door policy, which is great. We've been talking about it, and I've never had a project where it's been the YIMBY problem of more people wanting it who aren't getting it than the NIMBYs, which is a little more typical for me. But it's been a really exciting project to do. Over 200 meetings and still going, and probably a lot more to do in the next years ahead.
David?
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Who owns the jobs here? The contractor, the boat company?
Could you define jobs for me?
Well, you're gonna hire a certain number of people will be hired to run this.
We have an operator, which is a hornblower. They are a private ferry company. They will own the boats initially, and we have the right to buy the boats from them, and they have the right to get us to buy the boats. So we think it's likely within the first couple of years of running the service that we will end up owning the boats. In fact, financially, we're intending that. But Hornblower is a private entity that will be operating the service, and contracted to the New York City Economic Development Corporation.
Are they union?
This is a new operation. There are other operations throughout the harbor here in New York are union, yes.
Are non-union?
They are union.
Okay. Are union? Okay. Thank you.
I'm sorry, I didn't understand that answer really. The other ones are, is this one not going to be, or you just don't know, you assume it will be? Because the
We
others
don't
are.
know because they don't have a workforce yet.
Okay.
So they
But
can't.
but the others are, so they're probably
The
will.
others
Okay.
are.
I didn't know
They have
if
an
you were
excellent
saying the others are,
relationship
but this one won't.
with
Got it.
the union that they use here.
Okay.
Yeah. So we've been talking to community groups, elected officials, etc. We did an EIS that finished in July of the summer. We did a tech memo when we finalized our first tech memo, when we finalized the Roosevelt Island location for the landing site, and we finalized that this month. So Paul is very busy. He looks well rested, but don't believe it. We've been building the barges on Staten Island. They're these just giant metal rectangles, and they are now starting to be fit out, which is the railings and some of the like the electrical or the windscreens and the canopies. They're all being fit out on Staten Island as well. And then when they're all done, they'll be floated over to the landings, likely starting with the Rockaways, but quickly followed by other sites for 2017, including Roosevelt Island. So in January, February, we'll be happy to come back and give you updates. We expect to see some activity in the water and in the upland area as we get our permits in shape and get going. The vessel construction, the new vessels that I mentioned earlier are being built. They're being built by Hornblower. It's their responsibility to deliver the vessels. They're building them at 2 sites in the south, in Alabama and Louisiana, and we should get our first boat in New York Harbor in early 2017, which should be very exciting. Looking forward to that. Here are some pictures of Mid Shipyard up top and the keel being fitted, I think, at Horizon on the bottom. And that's our presentation. Welcome any questions.